Episode 127 of the podcast. Waiting for a dog to stop struggling is different than calming them down. In this episode, we'll break down why it's so different. You're listening to the Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast. I'm Chrissy Newmeyer-Smith. I'm a certified professional groomer, a certified behavior consultant for canines, a certified professional dog trainer, and the owner of Happy Critters in Nashua, New Hampshire. And this, my friends and colleagues, is the podcast where grooming and training meet. I'm going to start with what a great grooming dog looks like so that we can keep that in mind while we try to create a great grooming dog. See what I did there? I know. Name of the show, Creating Great Grooming Dogs. And this is why I named it Creating Great Grooming Dogs. How are we going to teach a dog to be good for grooming? So let's start off with the dog who is awesome to groom. The dog who is always a pleasure to work on. That dog. The dog that you look forward to grooming. What does that dog look like to you? Let's take a moment right now. I really want you to picture that dog in your mind. All right, picture that dog on your table. Let's take a moment. Let's picture that dog in your tub. Yeah, let's take a moment. Think about it. How does that dog look like? The perfect dog, the dog that you long to groom, the dog that you can do your best work on. What does it look like? What does that dog look like posted in your after pictures? Right? That dog who is a pleasure to groom. What do they look like? That dog happens to be calm, comfortable, and cooperative. I know I say it a lot here. Calm, comfortable, and cooperative. If any listener gets nothing else out of my podcast, just thinking about calm, comfortable, and cooperative is the biggest takeaway I can give. It's the biggest one I can give to our industry, is just be thinking about, is this dog calm, comfortable, and cooperative? Because the dog that is, that dog, the dog that you are picturing right now, that's such a pleasure to work with, that dog is patiently allowing you to do whatever weird stuff and things you need to do, right? Because so much of grooming is just weird stuff and things, right? That dog is familiar with all of your equipment, your tools, and the procedures that you use. That dog is willing to be posed, the posable action figure, right? So that you move them, reposition them, touch them all over with your weird stuff and things. This is your dream dog. And this is also your goal, right? We want all of the dogs that we work with to turn into that dog, the calm, comfortable, cooperative dog, the dog who can handle all the things that we need to do. Everything that we throw at them. Now, when we make it our goal, a neat thing happens. So again, if the industry gets nothing else out of all of my talks, this is the big one. When we start making calm, comfortable, and cooperative a priority and start making it part of our goal, we start to change the way we view what's happening. We start training our eyes, hands, ears to watch for, listen for, feel for calm, comfortable, and cooperative. So we start trying to build on successes, and then we start to learn to watch for when it changes, when a dog is not calm, comfortable, and cooperative. And we start watching for fear, frustration, and stress, which is the opposite, right? And I think most of us, when we're like, well, yeah, I don't necessarily want him, afraid. Fear, frustration, and stress doesn't sound like what I want to be working with, but it's often what we have in front of us, right? Dogs that just don't know what we're doing. They're a little bit scared. They're stressing out a little bit. And I find that it's harder for most of us to identify fear, frustration, and stress. But it's really easy for us to pick up on if they're calm, comfortable, and cooperative. And I listened to a talk recently where they'd said that for most of us as humans, even looking at other humans, we are far more likely to instantly recognize if someone's in a great mood versus someone who seems a little stressed out. Because I think we see stressed out pretty often, right? We might not notice it, but it's really easy to spot a great mood. So with our animals, if we start thinking, is he calm, comfortable, and cooperative or not? Right? Or not. And I think it's easier for us to notice. And especially when we start training our eye to think that calm, comfortable, and cooperative is a priority. And it is a priority. Because again, let's circle back. That dog you were just picturing that is standing on your table and you don't even need to think about what they're doing as much as you're just able to scissor. Oh, I mean, just think about it. And I think trainers don't really understand that, yeah, we're not necessarily, you know, interacting with the dog most of the time when we're grooming. I mean, there's interaction because we're touching the dog, but we have a job to do. And if we're sitting there scissoring and this dog is like totally cool with it, right? Maybe we should add that: calm, comfortable, cooperative, and totally cool. But we're building that behavior for a reason, right? So that this dog can handle the things that we're going to try to do, and for a lifetime of grooming. A lifetime of grooming needs, whether that's with us as a groomer, whether that's with their vet or with their owner or with another groomer, because people move, right? But that dog is going to have a lifetime of grooming needs, no matter what kind of health they're in later in life. We need to think about that. That's really, really important. So calm, comfortable, and cooperative is easier to spot than is this dog stressed. And I'll tell you over and over again, it's like, do you think he's stressed? And people will be like, well, he's panting a little bit. He's trembling a little bit, but I'm not so sure that's stressed. Maybe he's a little anxious. And, the thing is that we start seeing, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, I don't think this dog is all that stressed. But instead, if we focus in, is he calm, comfortable, and cooperative? Oh, no. If we make that a yes-no question, then we can go, all right, yeah, is it yes or no? Is he calm, comfortable, and cooperative? No. Is he calm? That might be a yes-no. Is he comfortable? Yes, no. Is he cooperating? Yes, no. Right? It's a much easier way for us to look at the behavior in front of us. And as a goal, because if you don't have a goal, you can't hit your goal. You can't make it. If you don't have a goal, if you don't have something pictured in your mind as to what it is you want, you can't do it. You can't do it. So, as an example, all right, I'm going to use an archery example. I might have great form, right? I can pull my bow back. I've got the arrow. I'm consistent. But if I don't have a target to shoot at, I have no idea if I'm aiming well. No idea. No clue. I need the target to tell me. I need something to shoot at, right? In a dog training setting, right? If you don't know what the goal looks like, then you're not really going to be able to work toward it. So if you are trying to work on something like healing, but you don't know what that's supposed to look like, you might have a dog who's lagging behind you. You might have a dog who's 1.5 feet away from your left leg. You might have a dog who's forging ahead. You might have a dog who, when you stop, swirls in front of you to sit. If you don't know what that looks like, then you're not going to do well. Okay? If you don't know what a breed standard trim is supposed to look like, what do? Right? We see a breed that we don't see very often. I don't know about you. I've been grooming dogs for a long time. If there's a breed I don't see very often, I always pull open a book. I go on to the breed page, usually AKC, take a look, look at some of the show dogs, refresh my memory. All right? Not ashamed to say that. I do it all the time. Right? And why wouldn't we? Right? We need that goal. Right? There's a target. I don't want to be like, oh, well, I tried. Right? Having a goal, having something to picture in your mind that you're working toward is super important. And here's the other thing about calm, comfortable, and cooperative, and picturing it on your table and trying to work toward it, is that the dogs are always learning. They're watching what we do, and they're learning from our responses. They're learning how we respond to them. They're learning about the tools that we use, the sounds that we make, all of the things that are happening. And they can either be learning that it's all scary, or they can be learning that these people are trying to help me calm down. Now, okay, that's a little anthropomorphic because we don't know what they're actually thinking in their heads, but they can learn that we're a safe zone. And I'm going to give you an example of that. There was a dog on my table, was a little bit nervous about the dryer, a little bit nervous about like so much commotion and other dogs walking by. And I'm working with this dog to help this dog be calm, drying in areas that the dog was more comfortable with, which is kind of like when you're like, okay, I'm going to go back to drying your hip and then back over here, up towards your neck. Can you handle it? Good. Now back to your hip. By the end of that grooming, when something challenging walked by or something else turned on, that dog was looking to me for reassurance. How cool is that? Right? Do you see where there would be a breakthrough there? That dog's like, hey, is this okay? Yeah, it is, buddy. So there's learning. They're thinking about all the things that we're doing. And if we think that we don't have time to train, the fact is that you're already training. They're learning. You're already teaching, and they're already learning. So the things that we do matter. And if we run it through the filter of, is this helping this dog be calm, comfortable, and cooperative? It's going to make a difference. Like, how can I help this dog be calm? He's not cooperating right now. How can I help him cooperate? Right? How can I help? What can I do to help this dog be better? All right. If we just work toward don't bite me, don't struggle, put up with it, we're missing some great opportunities. And I see those as opportunities that are missed, right? This isn't a judgment call about whether or not you're like, oh my God, of course I don't want him to bite me and I don't want him to struggle and I want him to just put up with it. Just put up with it. Oh my God, It's not a judgment call about when we're doing that. It's about the efficacy of that. Does it serve our purpose to teach them to be calm, comfortable, and cooperative? Is that the fast track? Because it sounds pretty frustrating to me as a handler, as a groomer, as the human side of that component, right? Like now we're just locked into this, don't bite me, don't struggle, put up with the things I'm trying to do. Oh my God, now the dog does this and I got him to stop that and now he does something else, because at any time there are thousands of options for a dog to be doing. And not many of them are the thing that we wanted. Right? Thousands of options, only a few are the things that we wanted. So we want to be able to see those as opportunities to teach what we do want. Right? Because we could be pushing the dog into more fear, frustration, and stress. But we could be thinking about, what is the dog having a hard time with versus what are we having a hard time with? Right? What does the dog think is hard versus what do we think is hard? What do I think is hard? Well, that's going to be different than the dog. And I think it's all too common for us to be thinking, but you know what? I can finish that. I can get that done because this dog is not struggling so hard that I can't get it finished. But let's circle back. Is that going to help a dog be calm, comfortable, and cooperative for the next 15 years of grooming? Probably not, right? We have an opportunity to teach. If you're enjoying this podcast, please remember to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes, and tell all of your friends. Here's an example that I commonly see in the grooming setting. So we're getting ready to trim a face. And okay, so those of you who are not groomers, I need you to remember that groomers are using sharp objects on a dog's face. So there is a component of, listen, this is a two-handed task. One hand is on this dog trying to stabilize, because the difference between a really cute face and an eye injury could be a millimeter. A millimeter. Think about that. With a sharp object. So we are trying to stabilize. But I'm going to say most of us at some point, I say us because I've done it too, right? We're getting ready to trim a face and we take hold of the dog's chin or their beard or their cheek hair, right? We think about there are so many different ways that we can take hold. It might be an ear, right? And then if the dog starts to struggle, pull away, twist, maybe growl or paw at our hands, then here is where our choice happens, right? This is the moment of choice for us as groomers, for us as trainers, for us as owners, for us as veterinary staff, right? This is the moment of choice where we either choose to help that dog calm down or we wait for the struggling to stop. Now, there are probably a bunch of other options, but I'm using these too, right? And I'm going to say, you may be the gentlest and kindest of people with patience of a saint while you wait for a dog to give up, to wait for them to yield to the pressure, to wait for them to stop struggling. And this isn't a judgment call about any of us as people. And I say us because I've done it this way too. This is about thinking about the message that we're sending and if that message is working toward calm, comfortable, and cooperative. So is it? Because I propose to you that waiting them out and waiting for them to stop struggling, no matter how patient and gentle and well-intentioned, if we're waiting it out, the dog is left to struggle, fight, get a burst of adrenaline, right? So now we have a chemical reaction happening in that dog's body, right? That's a stress. That's stress, right? They might stress out. They might start to panic until maybe, and I mean maybe, they pick the solution on their own, right? That out of the thousands of other things they could do, they make the choice that you were hoping for and stop. And they give up. They think you can't escape, right? So I want you to think that you can't escape, you just need to yield to my pressure, which is a common way that many of us were taught, okay? Again, I'm not trying to vilify this. What I'm trying to do is spark the discussion that does that send the message of calm, comfortable, and cooperative. You must yield to my pressure. You must stop because I'm in charge. See, I feel like it puts us on different teams. Different teams where the dog has to lose and you get to win. Or you lose, right? Because I see that all the time. Oh, it's time to send that dog to the vet for sedation grooming, which is not a good solution, right? We understand that there are plenty of dogs that sedation is not good for their health. And it's certainly not something they're going to do on a 4 to 6 week schedule. Come on, let's be real. That dog needs to learn how to be good for it, or that dog's going to get done every 6 months, maybe every year. So, okay, there's my rant. There's another whole episode about like why sedation grooming is not the solution fix all, right? It's a solution as a temporary solution for just today. But back to our example of holding this face, right? Trying to stabilize this face until the dog gives up, right? Gives up, yields to pressure, stops doing the thing that's ticking us off or blocking us from doing our job, right? The dog has to lose, we get to win, and sometimes the dog wins and we lose. But we could be on the same team, right? That's what training is about, being on the same team. That's why I'm here as a professional dog trainer, as a certified behavior consultant for canines, trying to add some training into the grooming process for us, right? It's because many of you are doing a good job of training, but you don't know why it works. Oh, and it's so cool when you know more about why it works, right? So the reason why some dogs never improve with this method of hold on to them and wait it out is because they're still scared. There's fear, frustration, and stress, and they don't just give up in defeat, right? We might see it that way. What you may be seeing as an improvement may be a dog who is getting physically too tired to keep trying, or a dog who is frozen. Now, I'm pretty sure everyone has heard the fight or flight response, right? You've heard of that. But there's a third one. There are 3 of those little F's. There's fight, flight, or freeze. Now, when fight isn't working, maybe they're too tired. Maybe they've got enough straps and muzzles and people latched onto them that fight has worn them out, or they can't do it anymore, right? Running away is blocked. They can't run away because they're kind of, attached to the table or hooked under your arm or whatever is happening, right? What happens when fight and flight don't work is there's a third one, which is freeze. Now, freeze and wait for the scary things to leave or to stop, the scary things to stop, is one of the options. And sometimes we see that option as he finally calmed down. See? Not so bad, my friend. You're fine. I didn't hurt you. And you didn't hurt them. Okay? Most of the time, it's not about whether or not the dog is hurt, whether the dog is injured. But it's not the lesson that many of us, again us, because me too, I've done this a lot. That's not the lesson I thought I was sending when I used to do it that way. Like, see, you're okay. Good job, buddy. But what I did was I blocked the fight, I blocked the flight, and now this dog is just frozen. frozen and scared. And that's not a good message, right? Is that calm, comfortable, and cooperative? No. Is something else, another stressor that comes in, going to put that dog back into one of the other options, fight or flight? Yeah, maybe. Often. In my experience, often. Yeah, they don't always stay shut down. It's not the lesson that we were looking for. That dog is shut down with fear, and that dog is stressed. And those stress hormones are going through their body, right? Think about it, cortisol, right? It's not like it's a momentary thing where we're like, see, and that's all over, and it's done. Ta-da, you're fine, buddy, right? And I know I have seen the kindest, gentlest of people do this and not know that it was the message they were sending. Again, this isn't a judgment call about people. This is about talking about what we observe with the methods that we use. So here's the question. Chrissy, if I'm not allowed to hold the chin hair until he knocks it off, what do I do, right? We do need to get our hand to help secure a head, right? And I'm going to use the face as an example. And again, non-groomers, you guys need to know that we need to make sure that that head's not moving around. This is a two-handed job. There's a hand on a tool and there's a hand on that dog's head. I would never, ever reach toward a dog's head and try to scissor around their eyes without my other hand on that face knowing what they're doing. However, if I take hold of a dog's face, I'm thinking about how gentle I can be. I'm thinking about making it comfortable for them, right? Comfortable is not just the dog being comfortable with stuff. That's also us managing their physical comfort. Sometimes pulling on a beard is like, yeah, whatever, right? Sometimes like, okay, whatever. Some dogs think that's fun. But other dogs, they might have problems with their teeth. Or that might be twisting their face and making that little sore next to their eye where their eye boogies had accumulated, That might be actually kind of twisting their ear funny if they have an ear problem, right? So we can think about their comfort. If I have a dog that balks at the way that I am securing their head, then I reassess what I'm doing. There are lots of ways to hold a head. I can reassess that and try to find one that's more comfortable. And if I have a dog who is scared, I don't have to go for it with my shears. I don't have to bring the clippers up. I can just work on, hey, dude, this is the way I'm going to hold your head. Tech talk. Hey, dude, this is the way, right? I can just work on how I'm going to hold your head. Get you comfortable with that before I bring equipment closer to you. So when we start thinking about calm, comfortable, and cooperative, right? I want to keep this dog calm. I don't want to spark that adrenaline rush. I don't want to spark epinephrine going through his system, making his heart race, making the blood rush to his muscles for the fight or flight response or freeze. I don't want to spark any of that. So if I calm them down, calm, right? Pick a different way to hold. If you'd like more information, you can find me at chrissy@happycritters.net, happycrittersdogtraining.com, or you can join the Facebook group, Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast, or the Facebook page, Creating Great Grooming Dogs. I really look forward to hearing from you. If you're ready to go beyond the podcast, and I hope you do, I've made it really easy for you. If you go to creatinggreatgroomingdogs.com and click on your next step, you'll see all of the options. There's the Scholar Lounge community, there's the Modern Grooming Professional certification, there's Master Canine Stylist and Professional Canine Stylist diploma testings, there's the Behavior Lab for coaching and private one-on-one sessions with me, and of course the Master Groomer Behavior Specialist program. So go to creatinggreatgroomingdogs.com and click on your next step.